So, Acererak built his dungeon just to watch you fail. The tomb is open. Let's find out what sort of a cosmic secret that it holds. Hi, all you beautiful disasters out there. I'm Betty Rage, your favorite nerdy goth mom, and this hot mess is Lashes and Lore, the only show where I explain lore while having a meltdown. I mean, doing my makeup. Today, we are plunging into the theatrical, sadistic, and unhinged lore of Acererak, the worst dungeon master in D&D history. We're talking about a villain so petty that he built a dungeon just to humble players. But is his dungeon just a petty game, or is there a more sinister plot at play? What's that? You actually care about what paint I'm slapping on my face today while discussing soul-crushing darkness? The product list is down in the description box below. It's there for your perusal. I mean, I gotta do something with my hands while I trauma dump all this TTRPG lore on your unsuspecting souls. Right, so before Acererak was even a character, he was a game designer's brilliant frustration. Back in 1975, the original creator of D&D, Gary Gygax, he was tired of players that would waltz into his games with their overpowered characters, convinced that they were invincible. So, like the truly unhinged genius that he was, he created a dungeon that was designed to do one thing: kill those characters. In that dungeon was the original Tomb of Horrors, a first edition module, so legendary that its horrors are still discussed today. It wasn't about fighting monsters. It was about the thinking person's adventure. It was a gauntlet of gotcha traps and sadistic puzzles that punished a player for making the smallest mistake. This was a dungeon that could kill your character instantly without a single saving throw. It was designed to humble the arrogant and leave a trail of tears and character sheets in its wake. This is a villain that's not born from a cosmic tragedy, but from pure, unadulterated salt. His story is so iconic. He was even referenced in the movie Ready Player One as part of the final quest. The fact that this dungeon and its creators have become a constant, terrifying presence through nearly every edition of this game of D&D tells you really everything that you need to know about the impact of one very petty man. But now that we've talked about the lore of the tomb, let's talk about the lore of the man, Acererak. Acererak wasn't always a floating skull with a god complex. In 2nd edition lore, we find out that he was once a cambion, the half-fiendish child of a human woman and a powerful Ballard demon. After a group of villagers murdered his mother, he was rescued by our old pal, none other than Vecna himself. That's right, darling. Acererak was Vecna's apprentice. He learned his dark arts from the Lich King himself, and he even rescued Vecna from a battle that nearly killed him. But as is the case with all cosmic horrors, a student can eventually outgrow his master, and Acererak became obsessed with immortality and found a way to achieve just that. And it was even more deranged than his former masters. He became a Demilich. Now, for those who don't know, a Demilich, well, at least in 1st edition, was the pinnacle of undeath, a being who has shed their physical body to become an incorporeal spirit with only their skull remaining. And the most iconic version of this is the one that we all know and love, a floating skull with a few gems for eyes. It's giving less is more villainy, honestly. He is literally so iconic that he's even depicted on the cover of the Dungeon Master's Guide. But you know, what is the point of being a cosmic horror if you don't get to torture people for fun? And that, my loves, is where the Tomb of Horrors comes in. Acererak's sole motivation for creating the Tomb of Horrors wasn't just to protect his phylactery. It was to lure adventurers in, kill them, and consume their souls for himself. It was all a theatrical performance of cruelty, a love letter to himself, really. And what a magnificent production it was. His tomb was filled with puzzles that had no solution, traps that had no warning, and illusions that would trick even the smartest heroes. And his legacy, it didn't stop there. In the second edition, Acererak returned in the adventure Return to the Tomb of Horrors, original, where players learned that the original tomb was just the first in a series of death traps. He had constructed an even more elaborate layer called the Fortress of Conclusion, located on a cursed demiplane known as Moyle. He's a villain who doesn't just make one dungeon, he makes an entire franchise of beautiful, horrifying chaos. He is the ultimate example of a child being more powerful and even more deranged than his parent. His father, the Balor demon, was a violent creature who terrorized his human mother. In a beautifully petty act of revenge, Acererak later learned his father's real name, his true name, and he used that name to bind him into servitude, imprisoning him in his fortress to be eternally tortured. Brings a new light on the term mama's boy. But my little glitter goblins, this cosmic horror show doesn't just end in a second edition adventure. In 5th edition, our favorite Archlich makes his grand return in the adventure Tomb of Annihilation, and his motivations are more unhinged than ever before. We're not just talking about a simple death trap anymore. Now we're talking about a multi-layered, multiversal conspiracy. Acererak is back. Acererak is back. All right. It doesn't work. Acererak is back, and not as a Demilich, but as a full-on Archlich, a being who has transcended even normal lichdom. And he's got a new toy to play with, an artifact called the Soulmonger. Yes, you should be terrified at this point, okay? And this little trinket, well, it is the cause of a terrifying death curse that prevents anyone from ever being resurrected. But, you know, leave it to the guy who ended his mortal life prematurely to become this Demilich to find an artifact that would make it impossible for anyone to ever put him back in that form. It makes sense. We don't like it, but it makes sense. But if you think about it, no revivify, no more raise dead. You're just gone forever. Then, to make matters worse, anyone who has already been brought back is slowly wasting away. Their life force is siphoned away bit by bit. Like, why was this even created? It seems like a very big problem. And why, you ask, would he do such a thing? Well, because he's using all of those souls that have been siphoned away to feed something that is truly monstrous, an Atropal. Now, an Atropal is a horrifying embryonic god of pure unlife. It's the stillborn remnants of a deity that never got a chance to fully form. Yeah, that one came from some psychotic place in somebody's mind. And as gross and as twisted as all that sounds, Acererak is nurturing one in the deepest part of his tomb, and he's feeding it the souls of everyone affected by the death curse. His ultimate plan isn't to become a god himself anymore. It's just to create one. He wants to bring a new god of undeath into the multiverse, a being that will be completely under his control. It's the ultimate villain glow-up. He's no longer just a one-off boss. He's a cunning, intelligent mastermind whose schemes are cosmic in scale and who has been pulling the strings behind the scenes for centuries. He's still the sadistic architect that we know and love, but now his designs, they serve a higher purpose: to create a new, terrifying cosmic order, a new pantheon of pure evil. All because, one guy couldn't get over his own trauma. Therapy is important, folks. It's real important. Because, one day you're upset about something and you don't heal, and then the next day you're breeding a undead cosmic horror of crisis. And that's not a good thing. So here we have our final look. And there you have it, my darlings. The horrifying and tragically hilarious lore of Acererak. You've learned about the man, the Demilich, and the beautiful death trap that he built just for you. And if you haven't had enough makeup and story time with Mom, then check out this video here that I did on Vecna. They kind of go together. I'm Betty Rage, your favorite nerdy goth mom, and this was Lashes and Lore, where the lore is deep, the eyeliner is deeper, and we're all just trying to survive the vibe. Be good to each other, love each other, and as always, free mom hugs from me to you. Bye. I'll see you next time.